Yep, he was here for last week. He's here again. Jordan, I think Jordan, your last time you were here was with Alan. That was like towards the beginning when we first started,
I
right?
think that's about right. That was like
Yep,
sometime back in feels like September at this point.
something like that.
Dude, Christ, it's a long ass time ago. I'll tell
Yeah,
you
the
that
way
much.
2020 went, it might as well have been years ago.
Yeah.
It could easily have been like, June, and nobody would know the difference because time is meaningless.
Time is meaningless.
Exactly. It's just a concept created by the human mind.
God, and I gotta say real quick, Alan, you sound exactly like one of my best friends. So it is so true. Like, what's Paul doing here? Just every time you talk.
Yeah, you sound,
Good.
no offense, exactly like one of my uncles who did something horrible, and I'm not upset or anything.
He's
Um,
upset.
oh, okay. Like, what was that's like the Heath Ledger Joker? Remember, he's like, you remind me of my father, and he's like, I hated my father.
Oh, dude. Bro, I love that scene, man. I was watching Christian Bale's Batman trilogy here. I was just super bored one night. I put it on, and bro, like it is. You remember that scene when the Joker's like, "There's a bomb in the bottom of your ships, and it's all gonna explode." You remember that one?
Yeah, they were
And
supposed to
like,
blow each other up or something. They didn't.
yeah, and the criminal, like this huge hulking, like fucking Mike Tyson impersonator of a human being, walks up to him and he's all smooth talking, and then the guy gives him the detonator and just fucking eats that shit out the window.
It's like we had our chance.
Yeah, exactly. And like nobody does anything about it either, which is like the best.
Yeah, that was pretty crazy. I thought they would blow up the prisoners, and then the Joker got mad, and he's like, "Oh, people aren't pieces of shit like I thought."
Yes, God damn, bro. Don't you hate it when that happens?
Do you hate it when they live up to their humanity?
I swear to
So
God.
we were talking about this time. I run an Only War campaign that I also stream on the Twitch channel, uh, which is going. I think we're on fucking
He's
episode like 15 or something at this point. Um, so we're just giving an overview on that. So the party is a group of inquisitorial assets made up of Deathwatch Space Marines and guardsmen that are working for a Lord Inquisitor named Octavian. So he's a different kind of Inquisitor. He's one of those people that's driven with the he believes there's value in everything from a single life to a single piece of equipment. There's value in it, and he doesn't want to waste. So he is very appalled by like the unnatural, like, just bodies thrown at the problem like way that the guardsmen fight stuff. And he's one of those individuals where he's like, give me 10 well-trained men and I will bring down the asset, as opposed to like, give me 10,000 people who just know how to shoot a weapon.
And they'll drown the asset in their blood.
Yeah, exactly. He's just like,
exactly.
it's a waste. But so along their way, they've dealt with different things. They've dealt with, rebel incursion that turned out to be a chaos cult taking over a planet, fighting a Bane Blade, fighting a Demon Prince,
That was
dealing
fun.
with
Not
fucking Eldar warp spiders, fighting 100 or more orc tribals. Like, they've dealt with a lot of shit. And they've found themselves stepping through a webway into the Andromeda galaxy and dealing with that. So in this scenario, Andromeda's been colonized by a group of humans from Earth that left in the 14th millennium on a ship full of, like, 75,000 people in the stasis. And it just basically, with the combination of its warp drive and an AI, it just kept making these interval jumps and was able to reach Andromeda in about 3,500 years. And then they colonized it and used an STC to essentially just spread and multiply and take over this portion of their galaxy. So
I mean, that is what STCs are designed to do.
that's what
Yep.
humans are designed. It's
I
fucking
mean, also,
like
yes.
cockroaches.
Yes,
They find water
much
and food and multiply.
funny you say. I've actually heard like human settlement sort of is it's akin to like pouring water. Like it starts in one spot and follows the path of least resistance as it sort of just
Look,
progressively expands everywhere.
well, it's strange because it's like it can, but also they almost work like bugs, cockroaches. I mean, any other small life form because it's the fact of they will huddle towards heat. If they like if it's not if they need energy, they huddle towards it. If they need water, they huddle towards it. If they need food,
Yeah.
whatever is the least available is what they will huddle towards. That's why you see if you look
Mm.
on a map, you see all of our cities and stuff are built around rivers and, we have major population densities because of when we were coming up, we didn't have the mobility to move resources like we do now. So, that's how it kind of influences us. So it's like if you're on a
Mhm.
planet that's fucking cold, you're gonna see all the populations hiding at like geysers and shit like that provide heat. And if it's a desert world, you're gonna see them hovering near the water and just stuff like that. If it's a jungle planet, I don't know what the fuck they're gonna huddle on. If water's
The lack of
aplenty,
malaria.
Yeah, exactly.
if water's aplenty and they don't have any issue with the sun and stuff, and they're eating plants and local wildlife, I don't know what they're gonna huddle towards. Maybe caves so they have some protection from the
Yeah,
weather. Who knows?
Jungle
I don't
planets
know.
tend to get hot, so yeah, it makes sense that they just huddle towards a cave. Could be much cooler.
Caves.
Yep.
Yeah.
Or they,
Oh, fun fact actually. Speaking about getting hot, you want to know a fun fact?
what's that?
You know that apparently in lore, Catachan imports like a metric ass load of promethium, so that way they could regularly just declare war on the jungle
Oh
That
all
sounds
over
yeah.
their
about right.
cities. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, because they do have to like keep. Yeah, I don't know how they would keep landing zones and shit clear. Because like even if you fired bombed like a kilometer of like wilderness back, you'd still have it growing forward over time.
It's reminds me of there's one of my favorite pieces of flavor text on a magic card is torching Crosa is pointless. It grows faster than it burns. Seems appropriate here.
I mean, shit. Yeah,
Got their ass
if
now.
yeah, because if it's wet enough, the fire wouldn't spread fast enough. So it'd just be like, like down in Camp Lejeune in North Carolina when they did control burns and stuff. They'd have to make sure it wasn't too wet so that they could actually have a burn, and they'd have to make sure it wasn't too dry so that it couldn't get out of hand. But they would like, yeah, they'll go through and like burn the brush around the immediate area, like around the base. I can't remember why. I don't know if that's so that they could patrol it better or if it was for a specific reason.
Oof. I cannot remember honestly. But I'm gonna take a wild guess and say probably something along the lines of just training,
Yeah,
because
that's what I
they've
was thinking.
straight because out in Lejeune you can go into places called Little Baghdad's, and it's literally just like somebody airlifted a fucking hamlet out of Saudi Arabia or Iraq or something and just like threw it down in the middle of
Yeah, and then
American
sometimes it just looks like
forests.
an airsoft field because it's like made out of plywood.
Yeah, exactly.
It's
Sometimes it's like it's so weird. It's like, "Hey guys, we're going to the training field today." It's like, "Okay." And it's like an actual like full on like city that people took legitimate time to make. And then other times it's like, "Hey guys, we're going to the training field today." And it's like maybe a wooden pallet.
yeah,
Like,
yeah. It's like, oh, we're at this airsoft field. It's like, no, this is government funded. What? It's like,
what? Yeah.
oh, that's not fair. But
Dude, it's how it works, man.
so yeah, Alan, you were before we started, you were about to tell us your thoughts on the party because this is a
Oh
race
yeah.
of humans that has connections to old Earth. They know human history still. Religion's still a thing. Like they didn't have no Big E, the Emperor, coming in to tell them religion's a piece of crap or anything. So you know, you
Shit,
guys found that
for
out.
sure.
What was your thought on it?
Yeah. So I definitely see it. It actually makes perfect sense when you think about it. Like, uh, in terms of like what we know about the lore of what humanity was doing during the dark age of technology, Um, calling them anything short of basically intergalactic gods is just a woeful understatement. Um, if anybody here is familiar with the lore, like some of the oldest battleships in the Imperium, like people
Hold
don't
on now. You're
actually
all
know what is
robotic for
in
me
them.
for some reason. Hold on. Let me see if I can fix this.
Oh,
Uh-oh. I think it might be my connection.
huh.
Yeah, give me one second.
That sounded at least a little better.
Okay.
I mean, I still got hella ping.
Yeah, I'm seeing that too on my side. Hold on. I think Discord's fucking up. Second.
I wonder if Discord's going down.
Oh no, that's horrible timing. It's always how it is too, though. Let me see here. I'm gonna see if I can
Oh man,
change this server location, maybe.
I
See.
have 5,000 milliseconds. Oh, 300.
Okay. All right, that should be all right. But so you're talking about, yeah, they're akin to, and so they actually they were sent out to colonize prior to the Age of Strife and prior to the Dark Age of technology, because the Dark Age of technology started in the 15th millennium and ended around the 25th. So they were sent from Earth in the 14th.
Okay, so yeah, the still the so like a lot of human voidcraft, what a lot of people don't know is like especially the largest ones like the grand cruisers, the battleships and stuff, like people haven't actually explored them and figured out what is in there at all. Like a lot of those ships are sort of just like pocketed with crew. And this comes to a head because there's an Arc Mechanicum named the Speranza that's written in a book series called Priest of Mars, which, by the way, is a beautiful introduction book series to anybody who wants to know what the 40K universe is about. It covers Space Marines, just the Imperium as a whole. It shows quite literally everything.
Oh,
So great intro series, which I would highly recommend to anybody if they want to really get a taste for what 40K is about. But this thing has macro cannons that shoot like literal black holes, and it also has something called a like a chrono lance, which in the middle of a giant like star death storm, it targets a Eldar light cruiser type ship with perfect accuracy and shoots a beam of time particles at it to make itself jump backwards in the past 1 second to get hit by the black hole gun that missed originally because an Eldar Farseer dodged it.
That just seems
okay.
like cheating.
Shit, yeah.
Yeah, so
Time control. Good lord.
seriously, like Dark Age of Humanity found a way to weaponize time travel, which
Uh,
is probably the most 40K thing that's going to come out of my mouth in this entire podcast. But so that's the type of like shit that you're dealing with there, like really. And it makes perfect sense to me that they would have sent somebody outside of the galaxy. I mean, look at the phalanx, for Christ's sake. Like that's a thing that exists. You know, like it makes perfect sense that colony ships would have gotten sent out to the Andromeda galaxy, and then once they're there, because they were so isolated from things like um, the orcs, War in Heaven, Age of Strife, um, Aldari, Drakari, just all the factions really like their cultural development really sort of reflects how different they are because there was no fall for those guys. It didn't happen. There was no, hey, Slanesh exists now. guys were freaking out. Like, effectively, they're like human beings, but with like Necron light technology, which is spooky.
Yeah, well, because so it all hinged on one thing. So years ago when I was coming up with the idea of I'd watch you play games, you play Mass Effect, you see Cyberpunk stuff, you watch Star Wars, you have all this stuff, and always the question was, it's like, you know, what sci-fi medium can go toe to toe with 40K? There's never a right answer. It's like nothing. Like nothing's gonna go
Mhm.
toe to toe with 40K. So it's like that started the thought process with me. It was like I was like, well, how can I make something that can go toe to toe? And for me to do that, I had to go to the beginning. I was like, okay, so how would it make sense that this place can be like it's colonized? Like, how does it make sense that people are there? How does it make sense that things are there? And my first thought was like, okay, well, life there could be as simple as the same way it was here. It's like you had the war in heaven, you had the old ones who were going around making all these races and stuff. I'm like, well, what after they lost, like, after the war in heaven and they were devastated, who's to say a few survivors didn't build a webway and go to Andromeda, you know?
Mhm.
Um, so that's where it started there, because it's like, and you have some people who, anytime the webways are brought up, there's people who will argue it's like webways can't be used in that way, and it's like unfortunately the webways are still open ended. Nobody has officially said whether or not they can be used to travel to other galaxies, because as far as lore wise, even the Eldar, who uses them the most prevalently, they don't know where the fuck they all go. They have no idea. They've lost that knowledge. So, and most people who compare them to anything compare them to almost like the Stargates. It's like it's an old tech that, the Eldar are basically the equivalents of like the Gould. Like they're just finding this old tech and they're still using it, but they don't know where all of them go anymore. Um, and with that in mind, I'm like, well, if we're gonna compare them to Stargate stuff, I was like, there's been a couple times them Stargates went to other galaxies and did this and that, and I'm like, fuck it. I'm like, so yeah, I was like, well, maybe there's a webway. There's multiple webways that led to Andromeda. Maybe that's where the old ones ended up hiding out, and maybe there's a whole story about how they survived. But after that, I was like, okay, well, it's like if the humans were going around colonizing everything in their most pivotal moment of advanced technology, I'm like, they would probably rig up a very simplistic ship with advanced technology, but probably nothing on par with like their most advanced battle cruisers. Because let's keep it honest, at the end of the day, if the thing blows up on the way there, they don't want to lose the most important shit in the world. Um,
Hmm.
so you'll just slap, get 75,000 volunteers, a bunch of fucking robots, an STC, bare minimum equipment, and shoot them off into space. And if they survive, they survive. If they don't, oh well. Like they'll just be space people now. Um, and then from there, it's like they had the STC, and the STCs were said to contain like the entire history of humanity. So it's like they just lived off of that, and kept doing what they did. And I had to establish the lore for a race that doesn't exist. So it was a little different, but it's funny because anytime you're creating something that's human, like I can't imagine how they made like Eldar and Tau and stuff, because it's like you can draw inspiration from human stuff, but you kind of have to make up everything. I'm creating another race of humans, so I could literally just look at human history and be like, what would humans do in a situation with humans? Like, that's all I had to.
Obviously, attempt to kill each other.
Yeah, so
Well,
it's yeah.
the fun thing about doing aliens though is that you get to you get to look at try to look at things from angles that you would just never before approach, and like it can be a little difficult to do, but you get to have the you get to have fun moments of just like, well, because like you get your basic idea of the race's biology, and then you're just like, well, because of X facet of that biology, all of a sudden this thing that is such a concern for humans, they don't, it's not even a thing that they're going to consider, and then you get to I really enjoy going through fun hypotheticals like that, so that it's always a lot of fun.
Oh yeah,
Oh hell yeah.
most definitely. But it's like it was, it was like at first it was like it's like, oh, I'm just doing this for fun and stuff. But then it's like I had a campaign where I had a party introduced to it, and then so the one that Alan is in, he's the second party. So this is the second time, and we're actually going a lot further into Andromeda. Because like the last party, it was pretty much like they went into Andromeda, they did a few missions, some stuff happened, and a lot of people died, and then between players, leaving and some people dying, that's kind of where the story ended. So they're actually going in it like head first, and we're gonna see, how that goes. But it's like I had
Oh yeah,
to
no,
flush
we've
out the
committed.
lore now.
Yeah.
So it's like it's strange, and it's something to think of. It's they didn't get the same shocking introduction to like old religion like the other party did. The other party was like fighting these individuals from this other galaxy, and they were sitting there quoting Bible verses and stuff in combat, and they're like, who the fuck's Jesus? Like they didn't know who they were
Yeah.
talking about. And they actually had to request the Inquisitor to like make a request from Terra from the library to like get information on it. And it was like there was like an old like summary report of like religions that were expelled by the emperor, and it was like that's one of them. It was Christianity, and he's like, oh, so they're some sort of humans. But yeah, it's like it's so interesting because it's like you have these 40K, you have the players coming in with this 40K mentality, and then you have all these like humans who are just not on par with what they're doing and stuff. It's like there aren't psychers aren't a thing because the church became so prevalent, with the amount of humans that were in Andromeda and the amount of wars that occurred and stuff. The church became like how Mars was. It was like its own thing. It became like its own empire, just like it did, in ancient days in Rome and stuff. So it's like people flocked to religion to as comfort. And well, when they found out about psychers happening, naturally, humans being born with psychic abilities, they wiped them out. They're like, oh, those are fucking witches and like mutants. It's like wipe
Yeah,
them
kill
out.
them all, bro.
Yeah, so that's what happened. But the way I explained to the party, and I was like, the easiest way I explained it, and I was like this new race of people in Andromeda is akin to like the Tau Empire, but if it had a modern day military mentality. So it's like very much like we do not like just throw our lives away. Like it's like most of the time in 40K when you run into an enemy, like they don't give a crap about self-preservation. You fight orcs, they don't care. Like you can kind
Yeah,
of
no.
scare them, yeah, but Tyranids, they don't give a shit. They're gonna fight down to the last one. Most heretics, like how many 40K fights actually end with like the last few guys running away? Like not really too often.
I'd say the Eldar get that. The Craft World Eldar specifically get that pretty well.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
or
mean yeah, because they if one of them dies, they just lost like someone who's like 50,000 years old or some shit.
yeah, and then I mean, the craft worlders are like their entire way of fighting is completely mobile. They're not as mobile as the Jakari though, which is weird because the Jakari have a place to consolidate. So it's kind of weird that of all people, it's the Dark Elves who are the more mobile of the faction.
Yeah,
When the Eldari are literally nomads.
yeah, but they still have craft worlds and stuff they live on inside the webway.
Craft Worlds are very slow as well.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Whereas
they rely
Kamara
on
is just a central point. Is they can go out, do what they need to do, and come back real fast. Whereas the Craft World's like gotta protect the Craft World. If we don't protect the Craft World, it's gonna if it gets caught by something, it can't get away. Like
well,
I
yeah, I
I
mean
know there's
that's
webway gates inside craft worlds.
yeah. Well, I mean essentially it's an artificial world inside of the webway, and they use webway gates to get out of it and get into it,
Uh,
which is fucking dope. Because like that's smart as shit. That's probably what the emperor was gonna do at some point, because he was working
I
on his
believe it.
own webway gate. Um, but then the whole Horus Heresy thing happened.
I do want to
Yeah.
say that Craft World spend a decent amount of time in real space,
I don't
but
see why though, because it's not like
neither do I.
there's.
But they talk about things like frickin' Malantai getting hit by the Tyranids, or I don't remember what happened to oh boy, it's the Y one. I can't think of it. The one with all the Wraithguard. I
Oh, I
can't
have
think of it
no
right
idea.
now.
Yudriel? No.
That's the prince, I think.
Yeah.
I can't remember the name of the craft world, but like they talk about getting caught by like whatever thing was chasing them, and it at least to me it always implied that they were in real space when it happened, as opposed to like the Tyranids got into the webway or something like that.
Well,
Yeah.
it's weird too because the webway is. I don't know if the Tyranids could affect the webway or not, because it could have been a simple fact of the Tyranids were going by a certain area and they pulled the craft world out of webway. Um,
I
I
don't
don't know.
know if they can. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I know demons have gotten into the webway before, and the warp can affect the webway in some cases. So I don't know if the webway's tied to the warp or vice versa, but we do know that the Tyranids basically cause like a warp disruption everywhere they go.
Yeah, I know that.
Yeah, so if could be possible that they do it to the webway as well, but I don't know 100%. That'd be interesting though, because then that would mean whatever
Yeah.
created them or whatever is using them, like whatever the hive mind is, whether it's one entity or if it's like a race of things, um, it's conscientious about what it's fighting. Because the fact that they can cancel out like warp stuff is and like reduce warp travel means that it's like it knows about it. I don't think that's just a natural evolution. That doesn't make any sense.
Well, the hive
No.
mind is shown to be, intelligent. Like the guiding force behind the Tyranids, it recognizes things. Like the hive mind has a personal grudge against the blood angels. Rather, it like
Hilarious.
specifically hates them. So
Wow.
there's definitely something going on in its head, and I'm sure it's aware of its effect on the warp and what that means. But as far as what it's if it developed that intentionally, or if it's just like they've always had that, I don't know that we can really say.
Yeah, it's with the Andromeda and stuff like that. I've written I've have so much shit prepared. Like I have found ways to intermingle Andromeda into every aspect. Like there's stuff that hopefully the party will find in Andromeda that's gonna shed some light on the war in heaven and like a lot of shit like from beginning to end. So like I get excited because it's like the 40K lore
It's
has
getting.
seemed pretty stagnant like at times. Like it's there's been too many questions that have been unanswered for so long, and there's been too much stuff that's been completely like blatantly open for interpretation and not just like ruled upon. Like at this point in time, I don't know why the Emperor's background hasn't been just released. Like knowing where he's from and what he is and who he is wouldn't affect anything except let your fans know. So like there's stuff like that. Like I just don't understand why they don't touch on that. Um,
Well, to me, that sort of stuff is there's always been a certain amount of in 40K and really all of the Warhammer IPs, the common person just doesn't know about stuff, and even a lot of the people who are like very high up the chain of command just don't know about stuff.
Yeah.
And like one of the parallels I'm going to draw here is in the old Warhammer Fantasy. It was a crime to know about the existence of the Skaven unless you were an Inquisitor or like ridiculously high up in the government, like uh freaking elector count level and maybe just a little lower. So like even your wizards and your generals don't necessarily know that those people exist. The Skaven even exist, and it's kind of similar in 40K. Is like if a Necron showed up, most people in the setting would have no idea what it was. And there's a certain amount of that I've always felt that Games Workshop specifically wants to keep it that way, even for like looking out into from the outside into the universe as fans. I feel like there's a certain amount of that they want to keep us a little confused as well, because there are parts of it where it makes it easier to immerse into the setting because you don't know about that thing either, and as the people are confused and trying to put together theories about X and Y and Z, you get to kind of be along with that ride for them in some cases. And I've always thought that was intentional, and that was why they did that.
Well, I can agree with you there on like the Necrons and the Tyranids. Like, yeah, I don't need all my questions answered for the Tyranids because them being unknown makes them scary. Like they're a scary threat because of so little information that we have. But when it comes to like the War in Heaven, the Emperor, you're talking about two significant things to the history that do not affect current stuff. Like it's just if you have all that knowledge, even if you told everyone in the 40K universe that knowledge, it wouldn't change anything. The Emperor's still going to be on that throne. I mean, it's like I'm not saying they should go through the Emperor's backstory and be like, for a fact, if you take him off the throne, he'll be reincarnated. Like they shouldn't do that. They should still have it be like, if he dies, we have no idea what's going to happen. Or all the bad things in the world might happen. But they should definitely be like,
Yeah.
this is where he came from, this is who he was, this is his full history, because that's just gonna flush out his lore and give you more to read about him. The same in the War in Heaven, like, it's the same kind of things. But yeah, like the full blown story of the Tyranids. I mean the Necrons are pretty flushed out at this point though. Like you've kind of have their
With
history from
the
the War in Heavens
with
and
the ninth edition
there.
drop and the revival of the Silent King, there's really not much there to expand upon with the
Yeah.
Necrons. They got
Which is
duped.
sorry.
No, you're good, bro.
I was going to say, which I always thought was kind of a shame. One of the things I liked about when we were first getting Nucrons was, there was that level of, we understand on a basic level what we're looking at. Like, we understand that they had this empire, then, and they were short lived. They sold their souls to the Satan Catan, however you want to frickin' pronounce that, became the Necrons, blah, blah, blah. But there's still a lot of blanks that are just left unfilled that we just don't know what's going on. And I really like that about them. And there's a certain level on which, it is a little sad that we just know so much about what's going on with them.
Yeah.
Yeah, my thing about Necrons is I always preferred the like 6th and 7th edition Necrons, which were these like completely hunched over, totally alien robots. They always moved in perfect unison. They fired in perfect unison. Like old Necron art, they're actually like terrifying. It's like they're a force of galactic entropy, and it's pretty kick ass.
Yeah, I've had a lot of discussions with people about new crons versus old crons, and a lot of people really liked the big Terminator vibe of just like a whole bunch of silent machines that we don't know where they came from really, and we don't know what's going on. All we know is that they want to kill all life in the galaxy. And there is a level on which I do I see the appeal in that, but I also like the more fleshed out side of having a faction with defined characters, and there are differing goals. The dynasties, in my opinion, were the single best thing that ever happened to the Necrons. That you had these defined factions of Necrons that, in a lot of cases, were working against each other on some level. But at the same time, my favorite thing about the new crons is that if you still want old crons, if you want your tomb world to have been so dilapidated and worn down over the millennia of slumber that when they woke up they were just kill everything murder robots, you can still do that. And that's one of the things I like about the new crons, that they don't remove old crons, it just puts in more that you can work with.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. But I mean, yeah, I still think, yeah, I mean, they didn't need to flush out the Necrons past, but them doing it's still fine. I definitely don't think they should do it with the Tyranids. Like, I don't think that's going to benefit anything. Like you shouldn't know where it's coming from. You
Oh
shouldn't
no,
know where the
dude.
hive mind is. You should know whether or not it's a hive mind. Um,
Nids are spooky because they're just so incomprehensible.
yeah, because it's like if you learn that it's like, oh, all these Tyranid fleets are actually the main body. Like this is it. This is all that's coming, and it's like, oh well, because the fear was always that, oh, these are just the beginning tendrils. It's the fingers attached to the entire body, and we haven't seen the entire body yet. It's like, okay, But
Or the
Yeah.
other very popular theory that this is, maybe not all of them, but this is at least the beginning of what's left because the Tyranids are running from something. That's also a very popular theory that I think has some fun merit. Not necessarily more merit than any other theory, but it's fun to think about every now and then.
I mean, that's like nah, I mean, because that doesn't play into the narrative 100% though, because you're talking about like that's what happened in Halo was the original humans were running from the flood. That the Tyranids running from something, how they act, how they are, how patient they are, and how methodical and just like I don't jump through the warp. I'm just gonna chug along. Um, there's not a lot of like self-preservation there. It's pretty much just move and consume. So for something to run away for that kind of thing to run away, that's strange. That's very not likely. That's the flood running away from something. It doesn't make sense. Now, it hiding pieces of itself somewhere, it being sneaky, I guess, but I feel like if it was running away, it would adapt to to have better speedy transportation as opposed to being this horrendous force that stops warp travel. Adapts to psychic users and consume and infiltrate planets. It's pretty. It's different. Yeah.
My thing's always been for me, I was always like, okay, the Tyranids are probably the very last remnants of the old ones, because I mean it fits the bill. They're designed to cancel out warp shit. The
Yeah.
only downside is like
Yeah. My thoughts too with
they
that
don't
were
fight
that.
robots
Yeah. My
very
thought.
well.
My thoughts too with that were that the old ones left the galaxy and made the Tyranids to wipe the entire Milky Way clean so they could reset the warp. That was my thoughts on it.
Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah.
That is definitely a theory I have not heard before, but honestly, I don't mind it.
I mean, it made sense. I'm like, are you talking about people who invented? The old ones essentially turned themselves into perpetuals. Um, so
Yeah.
it's like ultimately, it's like they also build the webways. I'm like, why didn't they build their webway to another galaxy, hide, and then create the Tyranids, let it consume whatever was in that galaxy, and then start sending it to another one? And it was the Milky Way.
Evolved. Yeah. That makes sense.
Because it's the Tyranids will just continue. Like it's like you're never like it with how the lore is right now. You can convince damn near anyone to side with you except the Tyranids. Like you can convince Chaos like to fight alongside you. I mean, they're not trustworthy and they're unpredictable sometimes, but you could. They're still
Sometimes,
human.
yeah.
you know.
Well, that's debatable in some cases. I don't know that I'd. You look at some of those I guess Death Guard aren't really a good example because there's all that there's that whole our Space Marines human thing, but like you get someone sufficiently mutated and you got to look at that and you're just like, are you actually human anymore though?
Yeah, but even the demons, even the Chaos Gods, they make deals. They definitely do. They're
I mean,
Oh, for
fuck,
sure.
the Emperor of Mankind made a deal with the Chaos Gods, man.
Yeah, so it's like you can convince them, orcs, Tau, E- Eldar, Dark Eldar, hell, even Necrons now because of their new lore. So it's like there's
Yeah.
only one thing you can't barter, convince, or stop with words, and that's the fucking Tyranids. Like, there's no negotiations. It's just fight or die.
I mean, well, you're not wrong.
There is I see every now and then people talking about how the AdMech could go StarCraft and figure out a way to like simulate the hive mind
Oh,
and take control of Tyranids, which I don't know about that, but that's always been when I've seen people try to justify narratively some of the battles they play, like, well, why are my Space Marines fighting next to Tyranids?
dude,
That's the one I tend to hear.
absolutely not.
Man, that's my biggest thing is like it's cool to always justify like your guy's trademark, but like, you know, like at least try to be, sensible about it. Like,
Bro, I mean, the Forge World of Styges V still has to actively run away and impersonate Mars if they don't want to get shot at by everyone because they got some help from some weird elf people way back in the Horus Heresy. So, like, the AdMech doesn't like people
That's why
at
they should
all.
go. They need to go full blown Halo. And if they start building fucking galaxy ending ring weapons that wipe out organics and they transfer all their knowledge into a computer, boom,
You mean
done.
that thing the Necrons already do?
Basically.
Yeah.
I'm actually surprised. I'm genuinely surprised. Out of everything that happened, the Necrons didn't make some kind of kill all organic life ring device like the fucking Forerunners. Like advanced as they were, it makes me think that either the Catan or the Necrons themselves not only wanted to wipe out all life, but they wanted to feel life end in front of them. Like they wanted a war, not a genocide, not a wiping out of all life. They wanted a war to end all life.
Well, I mean, there is that thing that they had. I can't remember what it's called, but it was it was like a star map that if you just you just did the little pinch thing with your fingers on a star, it was theoretically able to just snuff the star out in real time. That's a
Oh
thing that
yeah, I know what you're
exists.
talking
Like
about.
the
Yeah.
Infinity Engine or something like that. I feel like that might have been a thing.
Something like that. I know the Necrons found a way to capture Hrud, and they were like creating like the breath of the gods and like a way to create perfect solar systems, something like that.
Oh, now see, so like we have the war in Heaven, we have all that shit. The thing that fucks with me to this day in lore is the vault that the Death Watch fucking headquarters is built upon. Is
Oh.
in a fucking sector with like 6 planets around a star, and each planet is perfectly barren and is perfectly round. So similar to how like something would be after the Tyranids had come, but it had been like manually manipulated to be perfectly round, like to the degree. So like these planets were all perfect and in perfect orbit around the sun.
Mhm.
And on an asteroid floating around one of those planets' moons, inside is a vault that predates humanity by millions of years, but is man-made. And the oxygen that is pumped out of the vault itself had an atmosphere, and it had a chemical in it that killed everything known to man except for man itself.
That sounds like nanomachines.
That's fucking weird. And then they went
That is
inside,
fucking weird.
and like there's just endless rows of vaults and stuff. And what would happen is that like there'd be moments where a vault would open, and then you'd hear an alarm, and that vault would close again, and it would never fucking open. Like, so some of the vaults would open, they'd find like a piece of technology and stuff, and that's where void grenades came from, was from that vault. And sometimes, they learned the hard way that if you stuck around too much, the fucking vault closed, and there's people who are stuck in there. But
Get
the,
fucked.
yeah, there's just all these like vaults in there. One of them they had a report it opened, and a fucking telepath was in there in suspended animation, and he let out his psychic message and then died, and that was it.
What was the message?
They don't know.
Oh my
Man,
god.
that's fucking
Jesus.
wild though. Like,
Yeah.
yeah,
But
that's
how?
that's some
He was
questions.
human. How is he in there? It doesn't make sense. And then
I mean, we have
so
weaponized time travel, so it'll.
yeah.
I have a feeling it will make sense eventually.
Well,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
that's the thing. So it's like there's all these vaults that are in there, like an endless amount, and then there's one vault in the center that has never opened. So the Death Watch have been, what they found out is that they hooked up computers to it, and they began giving it data like mission reports and shit, and they found out that they could trigger vaults to open based on certain things. So like when they let it be known that Tyranids had entered Jericho, like the sector Jericho's reach, um a vault opened, and it had something in there that helped them combat the Tyranids. So like some mission reports have like produced the vaults to open, so they just feed all the information into this vault.
That's fucking crazy because like the thing for me is like fuck, like the war in heaven, like the Nightbringer.
Hmm.
Like it's explicitly stated that the Nightbringer like oh, fuck, sorry. It's explicitly stated that the Nightbringer was so insanely terrifying to all living like
beings that it imprinted a visage of itself on everything, which is why humans apparently have a natural fear of death and the whole Grim Reaper motif thing. But like at the same time, like humanity wasn't alive during the war in heaven.
I think we were. Wait, were we primitive? We were primitive at the time, I think.
Primitive still, man, but like I refuse to believe that a giant Catan would visit primitive ass human beings on a backwater fucking planet in the middle of nowhere and not immediately slaughter all of them.
Well, it doesn't have to, though. All the Nightbringer has to do is leave a strong enough impression in the warp, and that's going to get around. Anything that can feel the warp will eventually get that aftershock of the Nightbringer and have the idea of, pardon me, the Grim Reaper.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, man. It's you got to think about it. It's like I don't know. It's too open ended. That's what I'm saying. There like they did with the Horus Heresy. There should be books coming out about the war in heaven. And they need to flush that out because it's like if you just explain it, like you can explain anything to make sense. Like to at the end of the day, like if you say the right words in the right order, you can convince people to be like, oh, all right, that makes sense. Because it's like, yeah, they
Yeah.
didn't go attack Pyramid of Humans because they were tied up with a war against the old ones and the Eldar and the fucking original orcs. So it's like there could have been something like that. It's like, oh well, why didn't they just wipe out all organic life in the galaxy? It's like maybe Necrons really did. They hated their physical existence so much, and when the Catan transferred them into their bodies, the only thing left was that resentment for living that they actually physically want to snuff out life, like with their hands. Like it's personal. Like maybe that's why they don't just nuke everything.
I mean, yeah, that is kind of cool, but like,
It's like you're talking
that'd
about
be
people that hated their existence and hated the old ones even more because they weren't helped, which is kind of
yeah,
douchey.
like,
I don't know why the old ones didn't help them.
I mean,
Because
like,
they're
why would
assholes.
you? Yeah, first off, they are assholes. Second off, like, but like, why wouldn't you?
Because like you're talking about you're going around the galaxy and there's two races. The old ones found one other race, something humanity now is trying to deal with like psychologically of like, are we the only ones out here? And the answer's fucking nah, because I saw them fucking videos the government released. So nah, it,
God, oh yeah,
or
absolutely.
they're time travelers. Either they're time travelers or they're fucking aliens. One or the other, you know. And in both cases, we're not the only ones out here. Then, but the old ones go out there and they find another race that's, not like they're not as advanced as them, but they're definitely not fucking primitive, cavemen.
Yeah,
So it's like, why wouldn't you? It's like you found the one other race, and it's like, why didn't you help them? Why didn't you help them and come to terms with them and promote peace and stuff and show them shit?
because man,
He's like,
fuck
nah.
them kids, bro.
Well,
He's just like, nah, we're not gonna do that. And then it's like, and then obviously, yes, they went to war with you. These are individuals who the existence is pain for them. Why would they care if they went to war?
so like,
Yeah,
not speaking to know really anything about the old one's mindset, but it brings to mind the humans' first contact with the Tau, which is, oh hey, look, there's some weird ass cavemen here. They are utterly insignificant to us. Wipe them out, and we'll do what we want later. And it could have been a very similar thing. They're just like, this is so insignificant to us, it doesn't even matter.
Yeah, they could have just been like
It's
pompous
like,
asses.
and the argument can be, well, if it's that insignificant, why didn't they help them? It's like it's like the difference between squishing the spider, ignoring the spider, or taking the spider outside. Like it's all, some of those require effort, some of them don't, and it could just be a matter of they didn't feel like squishing the spider that day, but they also just weren't going to put in the effort to put the spider outside.
Yeah, I mean, I guess,
yeah.
yeah, I guess, I feel like we need a new word other than humanity to describe the feelings that you get from being sentient, like compassion and stuff like that. Because it's
Well,
like, oh, you have no
until
sense of humanity, but
yeah,
it's like doesn't really fit when you're like a 50,000-year-old giant lizard. You know, but
It's
it could have been a
very
s-
specific.
but it could have been a thing. You know, the old ones were so old, like literally, like they've just lived for so long that they're out of touch. Like death and life, like it doesn't have the value that it once did. Just look at the Imperium. So many people die and so many people are born that humans are literally seen as numbers. There's a resource. It doesn't matter anymore. Whereas the
Oh,
old ones
uh,
just
yeah.
it's like you're just a race of people that die too soon. It's not worth to invest in you, I guess, or something like that. Or maybe they just didn't have any compassion. They're literally like, yeah, we could help you, but that would put the transformation of this star like behind on schedule by like 10 years, and we need to do that so that we can like make microwave popcorn or some shit. I don't know what the fuck.
The old
I
one's
don't know.
just sitting there like, am I out of
Yeah.
touch? No, it's the Necrontyr who
Exactly.
are wrong.
Yeah, it's like it's facts. Like if we
Yeah.
gave you the key to life, you would have delayed our project by 10 generations. That's not good. And it's like, what?
I do know what you mean. So, I know there was I can't remember where I read it, but there's an article where like Trajan gets into an argument with this other Necron lord or whatever, and like just to detail just how out of touch with like the flow of time that Necrons are. This other guy was trying to get Trazen to like admit something, so he stopped speaking for like 2 days in the middle of the conversation and just stared at him until Trazen was like, "Okay, yeah, fine." Like it just doesn't make any sense. Like imagine following somebody around after an extremely heated argument, staring at them intently for 2 days without eating or sleeping or
Yeah, that I
drinking.
was about to say that's not even just 2 days. That is 48 uninterrupted hours.
Yeah, exactly. Like,
It's a marathon.
and then immediately going right back into a heated argument again.
The
Like,
original binge watching.
yeah, me and the boys stalking each other. But like Necrons are just so out of touch with reality, if that makes sense.
I mean, but you're talking about them now. I mean, they lost something. And that's what I'm saying. We need a new word because it's like they lost their humanity. But it's like that's what it was. They lost. I mean, I guess you can just because they're still sentient. I
I
was
mean,
gonna
you
say
could
they lost
argue
their sentience.
mortality.
Mortality? Nah, because that's not it either. Because it's like like at the end of the day, the old ones, hell, even perpetuals. People that are like basically unkillable, they can still die. So they're mortals. That's like when I hear fucking bullshit in other mediums and stuff when they're like, Zeus is a god, he's not immortal, and it's like, then I watch Kratos or somebody kill him, and it's like, oh, he can get killed by another god or some dude who got, he's like a half god. I'm like, that's not immortal to me. Immortal
So
is like
yeah,
stars aren't immortal. The sun will fucking die. It'll be long before any of us can see it or any of our descendants do, but it will die. Immortal is just that. It's there, it's been there, and it ain't gone. We will never know
yeah,
what true immortality is because the thing that is immortal is still here from the start and it's going to be here when we're all gone. So,
We also just don't have our brains can't comprehend that scale.
yeah,
yeah.
I just get really tired. It's like, it's like along those lines of like when people describe things wrong, it's like, oh my god, this is the best cheesecake in my entire life. And it's like you just wasted that on a cheesecake from Food Line. Like that's not true. Like you're an idiot. I hate you. Like
Very
it's like
passionate about cheesecake, dog.
Hey, no,
no,
listen.
but
Okay.
it's
Cheesecake
like
is worth being passionate about.
but
I
it's
will
just
All
like
fight
right.
you.
it's like people it's like it's almost like we have language pollution. Like it's just you use the wrong words to where they have no meaning now, and it's like, oh, something's really hard to kill or lives for a long time. it's immortal. It's like, no, the fuck, it's not. Like, if something cut its head off and it ceased to live, it's not fucking immortal. I don't know where that comes from. Like,
he's really fucking passionate about this, dude.
it's just like, it just seems wrong. It's like, it's like, you don't call elves from Lord of the Rings immortal. It's like, they're ageless. They can't age, but they die in combat. It's like,
Yeah.
then you have other things. It's like the old ones. Like, they couldn't die by any natural means except for being shot in the fucking face. Like, that seemed to do it sometimes. They died. Even the perpetuals, like the emperor.
Shot in the-
The emperor's a perpetual, and those are people who've been. Some perpetuals have, like, there's been reports where they've been reduced down to like dust, and they've
I
regenerated
mean,
from it. But the
Vulcan
emperor
came
got
back.
fucked up.
Yeah, well, that's a long and heated debate because it could be argued that, you know, the Primarchs didn't know that the Emperor was perpetual and that the Golden Throne is suppressing his natural perpetualness genes, acting as some kind of like hyper advanced stasis field, kind of like how they kept Guilliman alive, or but it is explicitly stated. So like Vulcan, who's also a perpetual, fucking Conrad Kurz put his ass completely naked inside the exhaust plasma vent for a battle cruiser, and then like just kicked that bitch in fifth gear, and like Vulcan came back from it. So
Yeah, so I mean,
perpetuals are immortal.
no, because they can die. Because I feel the way the emperor was wounded is I feel that when Horus was given into chaos, I feel like his blows had enough psychic backing behind them to not only damage the emperor physically. I feel like it damaged him psychically. So he is unable to heal his physical body because he is psychically damaged. That's
I
how
mean,
I
yeah,
feel
I
it
could
is.
see that.
It's like, and it's like, in that case, still not immortal. He could still die. I don't think he's being kept in a wounded state. I feel that he can't overcome it psychically because he's trying to do too much. He's got too many eggs in one basket. He's like,
Well,
Yeah.
also he did. It is notable that his soul was fragmented, at least partially, by Horus. That's how we get living saints, is they have a shard of the Emperor's soul all up in them, and
All up it's just firmly
oh, in
wedged
that
in between
soul.
their ass cheeks. Yeah.
yeah, so like his soul is still there. It's just there's pieces of it floating around sometimes, and with so much of his psychic weight, resting on the Astronomicon, and the rest of it presumably trying to prevent himself from fading, and also warding off demons from getting into the palace as best as he can. Like, yeah, I don't disagree with the assessment that he's still there. He has too much to do, that if he took his attention off like the Astronomicon long enough to fix himself, he's like, okay, guys, time to go back to. Oh, right. That only took like a year and a half. Humanity no longer exists because they've been completely cut off from each other because of the lack of Astronomicon.
Yeah.
I mean, so he absolutely has to keep the Astronomicon going. True. But the war for the webway it's been over. Like the war for the webway is no longer being continued. The webway's been sealed. Now, if the emperor dies, the question is like, and I might be wrong too, because I seem to want to say that during the return of Guilliman, Korn sent like 8 demon legions or whatever to go fucking stab a doorway or whatever. So I could very much be wrong, but I feel inclined to state that the webway is sealed. The Emperor's psychic might is split purely between the Astronomicon and uh shit, what else is it? Um the Astronomicon and I guess everything else that the Emperor does in his free time.
It gives advice. It gives random powers across the galaxy.
I mean, yeah, pretty much, you
I
know.
I feel so, like, the Primarchs. I mean, they're perpetuals. I put them up there. I feel like the Emperor made more perpetuals. So
Yeah.
I feel that he was training them to be able to do what he needed. So I feel Gilliman can use the Astronomicon. I feel like if he did, then there'd be two things that happen. Because I feel like the Emperor is slowly dying. I don't feel like he is in suspended animation. I don't feel like he is slowly healing. I feel like he is slowly dying. If Gilliman puts all of his energy and focuses on the Astronomicon, the Emperor would have, I think, well, two things would happen. Either he would begin to heal himself and you would see him start to slowly become better. And then that means that we would have a Primarch and an Emperor tied up. But the Emperor could eventually step forth one day.
See,
The
I don't think that
second-
I agree.
Well, the second
that,
thing I have is that he would die. And the Astronomicon was the only thing that was actually having him channel his focus to keep all of his stuff from splintering. And then he would just basically either splinter and just dissipate and die and never exist again, or he would like reincarnate.
So, like, I don't agree that Gulliman would probably be able to use the Astronomicon, because everything we've seen about the Golden Throne requires like an intense amount of psychic power. And that's not saying that all all of the Primarchs are on some level inherently psychic. That's just a thing, and that's just true. But it's
Yeah, I don't think he intended for Gilliman to use it. I think there's another
it wa-
Primarch he
It
had
was
in mind.
Magnus. It was Magnus.
Yeah.
Because that but the thing is, like, we're talking about, and I'm using the term human very loosely here, but the three people, the three humans that were ever intended to use the Golden Throne, or ever attempted to use the Golden Throne, were the three most powerful human psychers ever to live, being the Emperor, Magnus, and Malkador. Those are the only three people who have ever been intended for it, who have ever tried to use it, who ever have used it. And Malkador had it for, like, I want to say 3 days before his body basically just was utterly destroyed and he died.
He was expressly stated as to be a literal pile of psychic ash by the time they put the Emperor back on the throne, which begs the question, did they actually push him off or not? Which is fucking hilarious.
Oh man, could you
if
imagine
ask
just
me.
the rest of your existence as a pile of sentient ash crushed between the Emperor's bony ass cheeks?
Hey, dude, they're the holiest ass cheeks in the entire Imperium. You understand me?
That's right, man. Yeah, there's so much there. There's just a lot of lore that you get to work with and stuff like that in 40K. And it's I don't know, man. It's like you can make assumptions and stuff like that, but I feel like we're reaching a point. I think GW should just officially pick one and start going with it.
Yeah.
But it's
Honestly, you're
like,
not wrong.
yeah, but it's like they do need to like draw into more it's like you got to get out of people's heads that whole Space Marine mentality of like uncaring, unfeeling and stuff like that, because it's like the Space Marine Horus betrayed the Imperium. Like Space Marines fall to chaos. Space Marines are corrupted. And Horus didn't like fall to chaos because he was like, just wanting to be bad and stuff. Like he did it because he craved power and he wanted to surpass his father. Like,
Well, there was also that poisoning of his soul thing that happened.
Yeah, that whole
yeah, but just the
like-
fact that that can be done means that they are human. It's like physically, yeah, they're not like humans, but uh Space Marines are. It's like, they're just an offshoot of humanity. That's like calling Halo Spartans like the Spartans from Halo not human. It's like they're human. Space Marines are human. They're just
So
a variant.
I'm actually going to slightly disagree with you here, because with the Spartans, and correct me if I'm wrong, I'm not like a Halo buff who knows everything about it. The Spartans mostly had like very light genetic therapy. It was mostly cybernetic enhancements that went into the Spartans,
So
to my recollection.
what happened in Halo 4 is that what'd she call herself? The librarian or something like that? This like Forerunner chick.
I know
Yeah.
that
she,
bitch. Yeah.
She changed Master Chief's like gene code to basically accept his augmentations like 100%. So all the gene therapy, everything that was done to him is now a part of him. So that means that prior to that, if he went and had sex with a woman, he'd have a human baby. No one would gain any of the traits from him except they could possibly be tall like he was when he was a child. Now, if he breeds with someone, they're going to gain aspects of his physical form, such as the strength, the speed, and the regeneration of healing. because it is part of him. So she fundamentally changed him. Prior to that, yeah, no, they're still they're not as advanced as like Space Marines because yeah, the gene seed does change them genetically and stuff. But at the end of the day, they're still human. It's just an artificial process to make a Space Marine until the point where you start breeding Space Marines. I'm not gonna say they're not human because you're taking humans. Humans is a required ingredient. You know.
Yeah,
So, like,
that's
what I would actually posit is that a space marine is to a human, like a mule is to a horse, right? It's still it is it is technically a different species. It requires one for the other to occur, but the space marines, can't actually continue to do like if space marines
But
could effectively breed, we'd have seen it by
but
now.
at
Is
the
is,
end of
is
the day, the mule and the horse are still equine. There's
Yes, there's still equine. But what I'm arguing is not necessarily. I'm kind of zooming out. I'm changing the focus here because we're talking about being human or not human. I'm talking about like as opposed to Homo sapiens sapiens being the human race. Now we have like Homo sapiens, whatever the fuck other word you want to add on to it. So space marines are still in the same family, but I wouldn't call them human anymore. That's just my view on it.
yeah.
Um, they're very closely related to humans, but I don't think that they are human anymore. Now, is that a fundamental enough difference that that we should be treating them as though they are not human at all? That's that's a philosophical question that I just don't think that we're in a place to really actually have a good faith debate on because we've never encountered anything that's not actually human that we can
Yeah.
have that level of debate with.
Well,
And until we do, I don't think we can actually have that discussion.
yeah, I still feel that they're not
well,
different
boys.
enough. Um,
Time to go look for aliens.
yeah, time to go look for aliens. Because it's
Time to look for
I
aliens so that we can make them tell us whether fake people are people.
because
Exactly.
it's really the fact that it's artificial that I'm like it's they're just another extent like it's just genome like therapy and stuff like that. Like it's just another version of human. It'd be the same as like choosing a different race or a different lineage and stuff like that. It's like I feel like it's in that ballpark. Now it is to the super extreme, but it's like until it's like you know, it's just there's too many similarities that still keep them close to humans. It's like the Eldar are different. Like if they weren't they're so different like with so much about them. Like if they were the same lifelong, like if they lived the same amount as humans, if they were, because they look inherently human, but they're not. You know, like everything about them is just not like they're insanely quick. They're super susceptible to psychic powers. They have a lot of shit going on. I think that whether or not their blood's a different color is varies because I've seen it in some places be purple, I've seen it be blue, I've seen it be red. So I don't really know
Yeah,
what dictates that for Eldar. I don't know if it's a diet thing or what.
diet.
Who
Well, I
knows?
mean, the other thing about Eldar, though, is that we don't really. Nobody's ever, dissected an Eldar. We've never gotten a graph saying, "Hey, this is what the inside of an
Oh,
Eldar looks like," to
oh,
the
my
point where we
friend,
can say,
Yeah.
you have not looked into the Death Watch books, my friend.
Yeah,
They
okay,
bro.
so
You
do
can.
they actually like go through like a biological dress down of the Eldar? Because frankly, I'd be curious to see like how similar the like spread. This is gonna sound horrible. This is gonna sound very
So
horrible when I say this, but spread out on a table, I'd be curious to see how similar an Eldar body and a human body
so
are.
similar to those like pencil sketches of like Leonardo da Vinci, like dissections and stuff. They have a book that has the orc, the Tau. I'm like 90% sure the Eldar, but I can't remember. All I remember is the orc and the
It
Tau.
does have the Eldar,
Oh,
yes.
okay. I thought it did. And
And it has
inside
the
it like
orcs
shows
also.
you like the insides of their organs and everything like that. Because I remember the orc and the Tau because it was so weird looking. Like they show you the organs, they show you the inside of their head. So yeah, they do show stuff like that, and it is different. Like it's just not human. Um, but it's like I just feel like at this time like the Space Marine, and not even just like physically. It's like physically they're just genetically altered humans, but but mentally, like, it's like they're still susceptible to all the disadvantages and advantages of humans, but at the same time they're just more, conditioned. It's like, yeah, you're not
Well,
going to
the
be able to.
hypnotherapy has a lot to do with
Yeah,
that.
well, it's just
Yeah.
funny. It's like you just almost it's like all right, we took a human and we just raised the bar at all situations. It's like, oh, okay, so he can't be bribed. It's like, he can be, but it's gonna be by like something that's so horrendous it's gonna cause a galactic wide conflict. It's like, okay, it's like he's not gonna take a fiver to ignore the weirdo at the checkpoint, but he'll
He might
turn to a
take,
chaos god. You know?
he's gonna take $5 to let somebody buy the checkpoint, but for the ability to scream sonic waves at people that can rip them apart, he might, let you go and kill his dad.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
honestly, man, I would you do anything different?
I don't need to
Yeah.
be able to yell that loud.
I just feel the Emperor. He handled stuff wrong, and that's what I'm saying. Is that at the end of the day, same thing. The Emperor. He's a perpetual. He's an
Mhm.
individual with a lot of experience and a lot of knowledge, but he was not uncorruptible. He was not. He could be tricked. He could be goaded. He could be, forced to do things against his will. And the arrogance and the ignorance behind his decisions of, like, it's like he did certain things, like, abolishing like religion and stuff like that. It's like he saw it as a distraction, and it's like, yeah, it can be like, religion in a lot of moments have been used to give people hope, but in a lot of moments has also been used for manipulation and corruption and stuff like that. So it's like, yeah, it can easily be a distraction. So him
Well,
eliminating that, I understood it.
it is also important to note that the other reason he did that is because the emperor, at least I believe, this is not something I can exactly point to where it was said, but I want to say that it was also discussed that the emperor believed that by eradicating religion, he was cutting off a source of food for the chaos gods, with the intent to starve them out and weaken them.
Well, yeah,
No, I
well, I
mean it
mean,
makes
yeah,
sense.
because in there's been a lot of moments where organized religion has proven to cause corruption and chaos. So, yeah, I can understand that. I mean, that's, it's especially like if you clearly establish, like, humans innately know what's right and wrong. Like, you don't really have to drill home to people that, rape's bad and you shouldn't just run around murdering people. They normally get that without having to be told. But
He practices this normally.
well, I mean, yeah, there's always the exception. There's always a weirdo. But even those people, even the serial killers, and they get caught and in jail, they know they did wrong, and normally they're pretty upset about it towards the end when they're gonna get killed for killing people. But But when you have like religions and stuff like that, when you have governments, when you have people who sit there and clearly state these are the rules, these are what's wrong, there's always going to be a set group of people who know that, but because they're now being told it, they will now break all those rules. So
Oh yeah.
sometimes just the presence of those kinds of things can cause additional chaos.
Anyways, the moral of the story is that Erebus is a fucking asshole.
Goddamn right.
That's right. And I mean, also the fact that, like, I don't know what the Emperor was doing with the Primarchs, like, because I mean, he wanted these commanders and stuff like that, but it's like, I don't know why he, like, it's like
I
he was
believe
like,
originally
he's
it
weird.
was
He's like the
supposed
guy
to
from the
be.
Umbrella Academy.
Yeah, I believe originally there were other perpetuals who were supposed to be like with the emperor. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But what happened was they all slowly and progressively got disillusioned with the emperor's whole "hey guys, so we're going to declare war on the entire universe" thing. And almost every single no, actually every single one of them except for Malkador was like, "We got to kill this dude."
Yeah, I don't
The
understand. Like, I
the other thing
understand.
about the Primarchs,
Mhm.
though, just sorry to
No,
interrupt,
you're
just real
fine.
quick. The other thing about the Primarchs is because they have more value than just being superhumanly intelligent and quick thinking, brilliant commanders and all that. They also have, like I said, that innately psychic quality that makes people listen to them. Like, it's more pronounced within Space Marines of their own chapter, where they're kind of predisposed to want to, do what their dad says. But even normal humans, when Primarchs talk, normal humans generally have just shut up and listen. Like, it's just a built-in thing from the psychic presence of a Primarch, and that the value of that as a military commander or a political leader is absolutely unstateable. Like,
I mean, I think it's kind of like just like dominable size. You know what I'm saying? Like, when Caesar addresses Romans and he's got these giant 2-story tall fucking gray skinned snake nose spear growing out of face monsters that some dude from the other villa is calling an elephant, and they're just vibing and listening to whatever this guy says, like, I'm gonna fucking listen to that guy, because whatever that thing is absolutely terrifying, and he can apparently just control it, you know so
Yeah.
like,
yeah,
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, sometimes I feel like the Emperor just got corrupted by power, man. I feel like he just was susceptible, just like everybody else.
I mean,
yeah,
the big thing to remember in 40K is that nobody is the good guy and everybody is wrong about
Well,
absolute
most,
power
if not
corrupts
everything.
There,
absolutely.
there, there also is the the idea that the Emperor is actually a devout worshiper of one of the Chaos Gods, and
I mean, if that's true, it's Siege. There's no ifs, ands, or
well,
buts.
Yeah,
either one
absolutely.
of them or a new one that was trying to cause the turmoil. And that Horus was actually changed over because they wanted to ruin the plans of that Chaos God, and so the
Yes.
Emperor was
Wow.
actually doing the Crusades and stuff to cause all the death and destruction to basically turn the warp up.
Yeah, I'm not sure I buy into that. But I definitely see, like, there are a lot of parallels that can be drawn. Uh, like, how we have, like, listen, um, it would you'd be killed in universe for even suggesting this, but Saint Celestine is just a demon prince. Like, let's be honest here. You know,
Absolutely. If
so
you
like
do not, yeah.
So, like, and certainly she's a much. Listen. If I had to pick a demon prince to have to like be anywhere in the same immediate reality as me, it would be Saint Celestine before anything the Chaos Gods are cooking up. But
Oh, bro, 110%, man. Saint
but that's
Celestine all the way. But that's because
that.
she's got sweet little baby cakes.
I mean, sure, let's go with that. But like at the end of the day, um, the emperor, even if we want to call the emperor a chaos god or an order god, like, we could say that, just like there's chaos gods, there's order gods. This is suggested in some places, that, just, every bit as, ill intended, just to different ends. We can say, the emperor is just one of those. But at the end of the day, he is some sort of intensely psychic being that is or at least was on par with the chaos gods, and that's important to consider.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, definitely. And I mean, I don't know, man. It's like we can keep talking. There's so much. But but that's why I want that lore. I want the Emperor. I want to know where he's from. I want the War in Heaven. And I mean, they let it know that there's more than one perpetual. There's multiple. There's a lot, and they never addressed where the fuck they came from. Um, the Emperor had knowledge of the webways before he went and saw one. So he came. He had that knowledge. Where did he get that knowledge? Where is he from? Like, is he? People say that there was a cult of psychers back, sometime in BC, and they committed suicide, and all those psychers reincarnated as the emperor in like 2 BC. Um, and that's where he was. But it's like, how did they have that knowledge? How did he know about webways? How did he like? It's like one thing. It's like, okay, he's lived around for a long time, and he went through the age of strife, and he went through the dark age of technology. So he has knowledge and power. So he knew how to make bolters. He knew how to make power armor. He knew how to make iron halos and stuff like that. But it's like, I mean, did the age of strife? Did they have webway? knowledge and stuff like that prior?
I mean,
I don't
here's
think so.
here's a fun thought. Because the Emperor is, on some level a intensely psychic entity. Maybe he just knew about them because he knew they'd exist in the future, and because warp doesn't care about time, he got some of that early.
Very true.
Possibly. Yeah, it's possible.
Slanesh has
I
literally
feel like that's
always
lazy writing, though.
I mean,
true, but
I'm not
Slanesh
going to
has
disagree with that. But like you were just about to say, Slanesh has always existed despite being born around the 30th, 31st millennium. So like,
Yeah.
that's a thing.
So I mean,
Shit.
do you know warp don't give a fuck about your logic? Literally don't need science.
And then you get all those instances of people like you're like, oh yes, two ships making a trip through the warp from approximately the same location to approximately the same location. Show up hundreds of years apart. So I want to say there's been a couple instances of people coming out of the warp before they've gone into it. Like
Yes, there
the
have.
warp, the
Yep.
warp is weird, man.
And it is my
So-
absolute favorite fucking like thing in the world because narratively you could just be vibing in a campaign and then all of a sudden hundreds of millions of Imperial guardsmen sort of just drop out of the warp all over the planet and everyone's like, the fuck is going on?
Space.
And then they yeah, exactly. And then they all come down and they're like, oh yeah, nah, give it about like 38 years and there's gonna be a giant orc invasion coming from that direction.
Oh, Lord.
Like,
Well, I mean, so like my idea on the warp. So like so it's like back to the whole like Big Bang. Like so like Big Bang happened, everything's thrown in a direction, and there's some people that theorize that we're all just going to keep floating off in a direction forever, and then eventually everything's going to be so far apart from one of another that we're not going to see any other stars and we're all going to freeze to death basically. um my thoughts with it is there's some people who believe that just like everything goes outward, eventually it will come back. And I feel like we're on that process because they think that Andromeda, the galaxy that's closest to us, is coming closer every time.
it is. Andromeda is on a collision course with the Milky Way.
Yeah, I believe it is. I believe Andromeda is the only blue-shifted galaxy in relation to the Milky Way.
So it's going to be like millions of years, obviously, but it's going to happen. So my thoughts on it are: what if the warp is a galaxy that's like almost like it's in a plane of existence we don't understand? It's in another dimension, and it's collided with the Milky Way, around the time of its creation or before, and it's just an alternate dimension. So it's like it's the same universe but from a different point of view, and so the emotions and stuff that affect us here affect the warp differently, and vice versa. It's like stuff.
So you're saying
happening
it's the
there.
same universe, just like shifting up or down a layer that normally we can't get to?
Yeah, essentially.
Mayhap.
And the warp engines basically, it's like you're not traveling into the warp and like covering vast distances. It's like you're moving through this other galaxy basically to cover the distance. It's like you're entering this other dimension, and it just doesn't bode with us because we're not on that part. And it's like it does all these chaotic things and stuff because like all the emotions and stuff that we're pouring into it are affecting it. And the things that happen in there, like demons and mutations and stuff like that, is the effects of warp physically altering these people who are not supposed to be in this dimension.
I mean, yeah, no, I could totally fucking see that, honestly.
Theoretically viable.
Yeah, so it's like, maybe at some point, when the old ones were there, it was stable and there were life forms and stuff in there that were not aggressive and stuff. And you have the old ones, which was the predominant sentient race in the galaxy. They've been alive for so long that they damn near don't feel nothing, so they don't provide any bad guru to, throw into the warp to fuck with it. So then
No
the war in
bad
heaven
guru.
starts, the war in heaven starts, and there's all this hate and animosity and these horrible feelings that happen with war and death and all this, and that gets thrown into the warp and just fucks with that dimension to the point where the population that lives there becomes warped and tormented, and that ends up becoming what the Chaos Guards are.
I mean, yeah, there's some things that have been written before that I think about the warp being in the state it's in because in a bid to win the war in heaven, the old ones weaponized it against the Catan and the Necrontyr. I feel like that's a thing that I've read about before that could also have some explanation as to what's going on. You know, you
Yeah.
stir up the pool enough.
Yeah, that was yeah, they were using like the Eldar and the orcs and stuff who were innate psychers to, take advantage of the warp because the Necrons couldn't. Which, I feel like I just added into it. It's like you just have this other dimension that reacts violently to any disturbance with it. So it's like you got this race that just starts opening holes into it because they're like, well, I mean, it's calm and there's no issues, but then they see that they fucked with it. And it's like, uh-oh. Like, oh, we jacked it up. And it's like, it's like I feel like cuz it's like I want to say it's like they should like flush out that stuff a bit more, but it's like I want to say that it's like the Chaos Gods would probably be like the amalgamation of the people who lived there all conjoining into like this one thing, and it's like, okay, all these people that were just massacred and transformed by all the hate energy from the Milky Way ended up becoming like corn, and then it's like, and then vice versa and stuff. So it's like you just it's like, why wouldn't they want to like ruin our galaxy now because we essentially just waged war with another dimension.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's one way to look at it. Wow. Fuck me.
Next level thunk. That's what I'm talking
Yeah,
about.
wow. God damn.
But then your questions are, can it be fixed? If it can be started, can it be fixed? Can it be undone? Can
I
you
mean,
do
well,
can you do it to
Can you
other
put the
galaxies?
toothpaste back in the tube?
that's my issue is, if because time flow in the warp is so fucking stupid, like simultaneously, if it ever has been fixed, it has always been fixed
Well,
and
so
also unfixed.
my thoughts on that is that like, so it's not like a copy of the Milky Way. My thoughts are is that it's another galaxy, like, it's like Andromeda. It's Andromeda. It's its own galaxy on another plane of existence that collided with the Milky Way, and because of the time that the old ones wanted to fuck with it, it didn't continue moving like it should have. It's like it's on its own
Mhm.
plane of existence. It should have collided with us and kept moving and no one noticed. But because the old ones did what they did, they bound us to this another dimension galaxy. And then it continued to get fucked up. And we got fucked up from it. So it's like, I'm like, what if they find a way to separate the two? And I'm like, if that's the case and it is its own galaxy, then that means that, yes, it wouldn't match up with our time, but it would have its own time. It would have its own existence. If it had its own people, if anyone in there that was left that was sentient could tell us and describe to us, like, if they kept track, it's like they would be able to let us know. It's like, we're this old. We've been living on this planet for this long, because there were planets in the warp before anything happened. Like,
Yeah.
they definitely let that know. And then when Horus's guys and stuff like that, like after the Horus heresy and they lost, they went to planets that were already in there. It was crazy.
Well, sounds like it's time to bust out some needle and thread and sew the Great Rift shut.
Yeah, let's do it, man. If you get it, I firmly believe that the real victory is dropping a bunch of pamphlets on a shitload of orcs and just
Have
telling
them
them that
believe.
chaos doesn't exist. Yeah,
No.
Chaos
chaos
doesn't exist.
doesn't
Well,
exist.
your problem has one critical flaw. Orcs can't read.
Well,
All right, yeah.
the thing that could be binding our galaxy to this other galaxy's dimension could be the use of psychic abilities, period. Psychers could be what is binding us to it. So, like, the old ones, not innately psychic people. Necrons, not innately psychic people. The old ones start fucking with the warp. They create the Eldar, they create the orcs. It gets worse, and it just continued to get worse from there. The more and more psychers that were brought into the galaxy.
Yeah.
So, boom, let the Tyranids win, eat everything. That separate the dimensions. That galaxy goes on its way, and all life is extinguished. But, eh.
Soblum Prolved.
I call that a win. We all did good.
Yeah,
High five, guys. Who knows, man? Who knows?
The Tyranids just want to fix everything.
Well, you
Well-
could say that they maybe the warp entities did it before they got transformed into the Chaos Gods. That they created the Tyranids and sent them somewhere to try to wipe out the galaxy because they figured out the problem, and then they died, turning into the Chaos Gods.
Man, get your cyclical time bullshit out of here.
Boom! I'm connecting everything. You pull on one string, you go unravel a blanket. Go. Why am I not hired? GW
Pull
must
on
just
one-
pay me.
See,
yeah,
for some
honestly,
reason, I thought you were about to say, "Why am I not high?" And I'm like, "Dude, that's your business."
Yeah, man.
I mean, that'd be next level stuff. I'll be writing.
Oh.
I'll somehow connect the suicide of Hitler to why Eldar skip the way they do. Like, you just next level stuff. Don't even try to get on my level.
Okay,
Ugh.
well, sounds like you need to go and get yourself some weed and start writing the next big 40K lore.
Marijuana cigarettes, as the kids call them.
This man is absolutely fucking off his knocker, bro.
Dude, dude, it's like, that's not even the craziest ones, dude. I got some, like, I'm like, hey, maybe it works like this. And every time I say some kind of shit to 40K fans, they're like, I've never thought about it like that. And I'm like, you ain't got that big thunk. I was like, you gotta get in there, man.
Gotta
You're
get
too
some wrinkles in
intelligent
your
for your
brain.
own good. We gotta put you down,
Yeah,
man.
exactly. But we went over about 30 minutes, but I think we had a blast. We're gonna call this stream there.
Yeah.
But thanks for coming again, Alan, Jordan. Pleasure as
Yeah.
always.
Absolutely.
You guys ever want to be on again? Just let me know. I got this the Radic the Insane guy. He's been watching the podcast for a while now, so we're gonna have him on. I'm gonna see what day works for him, and we're gonna have him on. So, but thanks for coming in, guys, and say bye to everybody's watching, I guess.
Bye to everybody watching at home.
There you go.
Bye, everyone.
Or
Have
in
a
the
wonderful time.
bathroom, or at the subway station.
Well,
Wherever
no,
you're
no,
watching
no.
it.
If you're not watching at home, specifically, not goodbye to you.
Oh,
Fuck
man.
yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
The one guy at a subway shop starts to cry. Like, that's rude. It's just,
Good.
I mean,
you know?
yeah, I mean, Subway does suck.
I'm sorry, Subway shop gentlemen. I apologize from the bottom of my heart.
Nah, fuck
I
you,
don't.
die. Subway sucks.
Yeah.
I bring Quiznos
All right, well, I'll
back.
catch you guys.
Y'all have a good one.